she has to know what she's kind of signing up for, right? There has to be a certain consistency. Otherwise, it's, there's this disconnect between what you're initially showcasing with what you then suddenly want. What up, Casanova? In this video, I want to talk about 5 reasons as to why guys are coming off creepy, shady, sketchy, weird, whatever adjective you want to use when talking to girls, when hitting on girls. I want you to be cognizant of these things, and I want you to work on these things because, hey, guess what? You might be doing them yourself, and you might be sabotaging a lot of interactions in the process. Let's dive into it. Number 1, clothes and grooming. Look, when you're first meeting a girl, okay, or when you're meeting people in general for the first time, you got to make a certain kind of first impression. Now, the clothes you wear and your grooming, your general presentation, is going to be part of that first impression. It's going to let her know whether or not to even give you a chance, okay? It's her first, line of screening, okay? Her first screening mechanisms to see, okay, does this guy even worth talking to, especially if you're approaching her on the street, which is a lot more, random and outside the norm than if you were to talk to her at a bar or club, where it's still important, but less so. Sometimes guys just wear these weird fucking clothes. They're oversized, or they're poor fitting, they're outdated, they're, the styles are incongruent, either in terms of a whole getup, you have a sweater that doesn't really go well with those jeans or doesn't really go well with those shoes, or the jacket, or maybe it's just incongruent with your personality or your status. If you're Kanye West or Justin Bieber, for example, you can fucking rock whatever style you want and it's going to be considered edgy and cool and chic and avant-garde and blah, 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 or if you're some kind of a celebrity or some kind of a fashion symbol. But if you're, some regular dude with a certain kind of personality, and that's not to say that your personality can't evolve and with that your style, but if you've got a certain kind of vibe, and you're a certain kind of complexion and you have a certain kind of status, you can't just wear whatever the fuck you want, otherwise it's gonna come off weird and incongruent. Yo, quick announcement, my dude. Just want to briefly mention that over the last year, many guys have been asking me, how do you create chemistry with women? And this has sadly been exaggerated by the pandemic. That's right, I'm talking about that magic you see me create with the girls in my videos. So, I've decided to give away a super entertaining, uncut Infield bonus video showing exactly that. Just click on the link in the description below. By signing up, you're also joining the VIP list for our, wait for it, new course, Honest Chemistry, which will be released in the next couple of weeks and will teach you everything to do with creating chemistry from sexual tension to an amazing connection. This course has been more than a year in the making and I'm really excited to release it. So be sure to click the link in the description box or comment section below to get access to your bonus video today and stay in the loop. All right, now let's get back into it. So this is something to be mindful of. Similarly, bad grooming. If you've got some kind of a greasy hair or a ponytail, that just doesn't work with your general style or with who you are, or you're balding like me, but you're not keeping your head shaved and clean, and you've got some fuzz, or you're doing some kind of comb over and just looks sloppy and fucking messy and weird, man. Okay, it looks fucking weird. I can't stress this enough. This can sometimes just immediately sabotage your opportunity to get to know the girl because she's just immediately creeped the fuck out. This is off. I actually dedicate a whole 1-hour bonus to this in my foolproof approach course on, fashion and presentation, because this is so important and a lot of guys are really out of touch. So if you think, and whenever I work with students, by the way, I always tell them to send me some pictures of a few different outfits in advance so I can gauge their general sense of style. And if I ever feel okay, that's going to potentially, sabotage some of their interaction, that's going to take away from them having an optimal boot camp experience, then I'll always, have one of my assistants take them shopping beforehand, or we give them some tips ahead of time so that we can really optimize for that experience. So I always say, look, if you're confused, okay, if you're not sure as to whether or not your style and your grooming is on point, okay, then do what you can to rectify the situation. Speak to a stylist, get some, when you're out shopping, talk to the people working at the store, the girls, the gay dudes, okay, get a stylist, follow some fashion blogs or YouTube channels or Instagram channels, like work on that shit, okay, because it's important, not only in your dating life, but in your professional life, when you're networking, etc. Same thing goes for facial hair or accessories. If you have a unibrow, take care of that shit. If you want to rock a beard, make sure that it's well shaped, make sure that it's trimmed, that it looks congruent with your style. Look, I had a student, his name was Muhammad, incidentally or coincidentally, and he had a beard, this giant fucking beard, and he straight up looked like a terrorist. He thought he was looking all hipster and shit with his, he also had a weird ponytail to go with it. And I was like, no, bro, you look like an Al-Qaeda member, okay? And you might say, well, Vadim, isn't that like stereotyping and like racial profiling and like maybe girls should just like be more sensitive to that? And I'm like, bro, welcome to reality. Okay, this is not Alice in Wonderland. Welcome to fucking reality. You have a few seconds to make a first impression, and that's it. If you have glasses, make sure you have some nice frames that are stylish, that go well with your facial structure. Very important. I've had a bunch of students that had these like weird geeky looking frames where I'm like, bro, you gotta change that up quick. Number 2, not taking full ownership or committing to what you're doing. Look, if you are not in alignment with or have not fully come to terms with the idea of hitting on a girl, of putting yourself out there, of being flirtatious, of potentially getting rejected, if you are afraid of it, or don't believe in yourself, or don't believe in the possibility that this works, if you're afraid to really commit to the interaction, to fully see it through, then you are going to come off sketchy. Okay, you are going to come off weird. Again, this is more pronounced if you're meeting a girl in a non-traditional context, like on the street or a coffee shop, as opposed to, for example, a bar or club where the social element is more expected. Some guys, they hide their intent. Okay, they hide the fact that they're trying to hit on the girl. Okay, they're afraid to show it. They're indirect. They're verbally indirect in contexts like during the day where you really need to let the girl know that you are hitting on her. And then on top of that, when you don't show confidence and conviction in what you're saying, when there's no assertiveness, there's no, oomph behind what you're saying, and you start speaking in some kind of a faint voice, or your voice starts getting higher, your body language is closed and unrelaxed, it's meek as opposed to more assertive and dominant and relaxed. When your eye contact is nervous, when you have these fearful facial expressions. Now, mind you, small side note, your eye contact during the day doesn't have to be constantly like steady and shit, as it does sometimes in certain contexts at night. During the day, it should be more relaxed and intermittent, and you should kind of engage with the environment. Otherwise, it might come off as sociopathic. If you're touching, when it's appropriate to touch the girl, if it's light and unassertive, when you're kind of just like gently tapping her back and like you're really afraid to put your hand on her shoulder, for example, or on her back, whatever physical contact is appropriate in that specific context, when it's light and not assertive enough, it comes off, all these things I'm describing come off creepy, sketchy, weird. And all of them stem from the fact that you're not committing to the idea of hitting on this girl and of fully putting yourself out there. So I see this a lot when I look at recordings of my students. So when I run my programs, we record the students during the day and at night. We film it, we mic them up, etc. and then we look at their footage and we just fully break it down. And sometimes it's crazy when you see yourself on footage and you see how you're coming off. And when I tie it in, with some of these concepts that we're talking about, you're like, you yourself could recognize, holy shit, I am sketching the girl out. I am being fucking weird. I am being fucking creepy. All right? And it's great to laugh at it, actually. It's actually important to laugh at it because it's hilarious. It's hilarious how we can sometimes come off without realizing it. Anyway, this comes from that second point that I just described. So very important. And this is something, of course, that you need to work on and develop. It's not just like a switch that happens overnight, but the more cognizant you are of this, and the more you work on these beliefs and some of these mental practices, like committing to something so that you're fully behind it, you're 100% into it, the more you're going to come off congruent and at ease and confident in your interactions. Number 3, having an ambiguous agenda. Now, some of this can be as a byproduct of the previous point where you're failing to fully take ownership or commit to your interactions on a deeper level. But some of it can be as a result of poor technique or social calibration, not knowing how to properly flirt or lack of experience, just things more of that are more mechanical in nature. For example, being indirect with the girl in the wrong context. Like, for example, during the day, not letting her know up front what your intentions are. And sometimes if you're more advanced and have good charisma and good flirting skills, you can kind of convey that in your vibe and socially calibrate to the situation. If you open the girl at a bookstore and you don't really let her know what's up, right off the bat, and then she starts getting a little bit weirded out. If you have good social calibration, you can recognize that and you can be like, I'm just fucking with you. I actually thought you were cute. I had to come say hi. But if you don't have that, if you're starting out, if you're developing that skill set, it's very good to let the girl know in non-traditional kind of environments. When I say non-traditional, let's say non-night game environments. Environments where the social element is not necessarily expected, where girls don't think or don't expect you to just be hitting on them, okay? Like at a bookstore. Sure, it happens in the movies, but it's unusual. Then it's better to let them know up front what's up, okay? So if you fail to do that, that's gonna potentially sketch the girl out. Moreover, if you fail to convey if you at least do that first part, is good, but if you fail to convey the intent in your vibe, if you're too friendly or too nice or too businesslike, then it's gonna come off very ambiguous. Like, what does this guy want from me? And this is especially pronounced if you don't mention, if you don't let them know up front what's going on, right? So at night, oftentimes, you're not really letting the girl know what's up. You're just kind of shooting the shit, flirting with her. Because it's a little bit extra to let her know what's up at a bar or nightclub. You want to game her or convey intent with your vibes. So when you're being very ambiguous, it can come off kind of sketchy and weird. And there's a lot of contexts where this is important. Another example is being overly salesy or gamey or fake. Comes off really sleazy, like some of these old school methodologies, routines and techniques, or guys that are just too gamey or over the top. It just comes off. Yeah, sleazy is the right word for it. Something's off. Okay, that's kind of the impression. Something is off. Something is sketch. So that can really give her a sense that you have some weird, ambiguous agenda. Okay, and by the way, even when you've let the girl know up front that you're hitting on her, if you have this kind of a vibe, it could still come off very sketch. Sure, you said you're hitting on me, but what are you doing, bro? That's kind of what she's thinking. Another thing is following the girl. During the day, sometimes guys will hesitate to open her right away, and then they'll follow her. And sometimes the girls will just feel it. or they'll like walk with her instead of running up. I always advocate to run up. Or they don't, this is a point I'll talk about later, but they don't let the girl know, they don't account for context. They don't let the girl know like what's up, like why are they there to begin with. So that in combination with them like following the girl and like walking up to her comes off like really sketch, right? Or lingering unnecessarily before they open her in some kind of environment where they're just like circling around, lingering, and then eventually they muster up the courage. And if girls have amazing emotional intelligence and amazing radars for this, and they pick up on this shit and it comes off so fucking sus, okay? So creepy. Or they linger after the interactions in a way that's just, where they almost like feel out of place. I always advocate being at ease in the environment and just being okay to like hang out on your own and actually doing exercises like that. So it's one thing to practice that as a skill set, to be comfortable, to learn how to be comfortable with awkwardness. And when you are at ease and when you are feeling good and have confidence what you're doing, you can sometimes linger in a way that works. But if you don't, you're gonna linger in a way that's gonna sketch people out. So be mindful of that. Number 4, not setting the right frame or tone to the interaction right off the bat, or sooner rather than later. And this ties in with a previous point about having an ambiguous agenda. I mean, all these points work together, to be honest with you. So when I say setting the right frame, I mean conveying to her either directly, verbally, but more importantly, in your vibe, as quickly as possible, that you're easygoing, that you don't take yourself too seriously, that you're flirtatious, that you're sexual, that you're okay with the idea of hitting on her, and that you are, in fact, hitting on her. So you want to set this frame earlier on in the interaction, because what happens if you don't, and this is how girls get creeped out, is guys will be all nice and friendly and sometimes businesslike, depending on the context. And then all of a sudden they start getting like flirty or sexual, just like out of nowhere. That really sketches girls out. Or more than that, if they start getting physical without setting the right tone, okay? You're being all friendly and businesslike, and all of a sudden you put your hand on her thigh, or you put your hand on her hand, or you do something physical that's just, incongruent, okay, or sometimes out of context. Well, out of context can work if you set the right frame, but it just comes off super creepy and sketchy. So it's like, think of it as like you gotta prime the girl, right? She has to know what she's kind of signing up for, right? There has to be a certain consistency. Otherwise, there's this disconnect between what you're initially showcasing with what you then suddenly want. It's like if you're talking to a guy and, he's being all friendly, shooting the shit, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, he's trying to sell you something. All of a sudden, out of context, he's trying to sell you some kind of stereo equipment or some kind of creams and pushing it aggressively. Like, yeah, so I have these great creams where I have this really good stereo equipment. You should buy it. Yeah, you should check it out. You should buy it. You should come to my house and check out the equipment, or come to my store. That would be completely sketchy, as opposed to, especially if if you were meeting this guy on the street. It'd be sketchy at a party, but imagine you're meeting some guy in the street and he's kind of trying to chat you up, and then all of a sudden he's like, hey, so I got this stereo equipment. My store is just around the block there. You wanna come take a look at it? All right. As opposed to if he immediately kind of lets you know what's up and lets you know that, hey, I'm selling this stereo equipment, and that'd have to be done delicately, and there's an art to sales, but he jokes, he builds some rapport with you, but the whole time he's trying to sell you that stereo equipment, right? So it doesn't come as a complete surprise. It doesn't sketch you out if he suddenly does this 180 and just pulls this card out of his ass and expects you to just go along with it. Funny story, I was recently seeing this girl and she told me that when she was in her early 20s, she was in her like late 20s, but when she was in her early 20s, she met this, through some connections, she met this older rich dude. He was in his like late 50s, and she was like, oh, I was seeing him, or she gave me the impression that she was seeing him, and he was like picking her up in his like Ferrari for lunches, and they were hanging out, and they were supposed to like go to New York together or something. And basically she said that at some point she found out that he wanted something more than friendship. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? I thought when you said you're seeing him and you're going on these fucking lunches in his Ferrari, when he's picking you up in his Ferrari for these lunch dates and inviting you to New York, I thought like you were sleeping with him. I thought that was implied that he wanted more than friendship. But apparently, and this happens sometimes with girls, they're completely oblivious to this. They think, oh, he just wanted to like be friends. And she might have downplayed it on some level to like save face in front of me, even though I wasn't judging at all. And like maybe on some level she knew what was up, and she was just curious enough to like hang out with the guy. But afterwards, like when it was like very clear that, oh, he wanted something and it didn't rub her the right way, she didn't want to admit to herself that, like, let's be real, she knew all along, okay, or didn't want to admit in my eyes. The point of this is that she was probably on some level open to the idea. Now, if the guy had set the right frame and had the right vibe and all that stuff, she probably would have fucked him and would have maybe continued seeing him. Like you see younger girls with older guys all the time. Now, he probably didn't set the right frame and came off all like, oh, I just want to be friends and like take you out to lunches. There wasn't that intent and the flirtatious sexual vibe communicated right off the bat where he's just owning it. So it just came as too much of a surprise, as too much of a shock factor. And of course, the fact that he's older pronounced that, right? It placed more emphasis on that disconnect in her mind between what the vibe she was initially getting from him and what it turned out that he wanted. Like when he said, oh, well, let's go to New York and share a fucking bed together. You know, I'm sure there must have been some other instances where it's like, whoa, oh, you want to fuck me? These are not just friendly lunches? And this notion of setting the right frame is going to be a lot more pronounced if you are not a classically good-looking guy or charismatic guy. Because it's almost like society doesn't give you as much permission to be that guy, that flirtatious, sexual guy that can just go for it. So if you don't set the right frame, it's going to be much more pronounced, okay? And it's going to really sketch the girls out. Whereas if you're some really good-looking guy, it's still going to be weird and out of context, but it's going to be a little bit more forgivable because at least in her mind, in the back of her mind, society says, oh, well, he's that guy that you see in the movies or in the commercials. It's like classically good looking. So I guess he's on some level allowed to hit on you. But she still needs to feel that warm up, okay? There's some room for forgiveness, but you still got to do these things. Number 6, asking for too much compliance prematurely. So what does that mean? You meet the girl, you've barely gotten to know her, you haven't built enough rapport or comfort, but you act as if you do, as if you have built enough comfort and rapport, and you try to ask for something from the girl before she's invested enough to give that to you. So for example, you just met the girl, let's say during the day, and you just like suddenly attach yourself to the girl and start walking with her. It's like, oh, I'll just walk with you. Like there's a time when you can do that, maybe after like having spent 5 minutes talking to her and you give her some context as to where you're going, and you can be like, you know what, I'll walk with you for like a few minutes. I'm actually meeting my buddy in 20 for lunch. You seem pretty normal. I'll walk with you. Oh, are you walking in this direction? Okay, cool, I'll walk with you. But if you just met the girl, you can't be like, hey, like a minute in, hey, are you walking this way? Okay, I'll walk with you. Like, or sometimes they'll ask, is it cool if I walk with you? Like you're asking for some kind of a major commitment from a girl that's known you for a fucking minute. So it's really weird. It's sketchy as fuck. Or you're talking to her at a bar or something, and you're asking her to like move with you from one location to another. I don't know, from the bar to the dance floor to the patio, and you've only spent like a minute, 2 minutes talking to her. So why would she comply? So usually the more investment there is on her part, the more comfort that's built between the two of you, the more likely she is to comply with that. And if you do it prematurely, it's going to sketch her out, and it's going to sabotage the interaction. So to summarize, keep those 5 factors in mind. 1, close and grooming. 2, not taking ownership or fully committing to what you're doing, to the idea of hitting on these girls. 3, having an ambiguous agenda. 4, not setting the right frame or tone to the interaction. And 5, asking for too much compliance prematurely. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, drop a comment below, let me know what you liked and any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms. Also subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you're notified when we put out new videos, and go check out the free Infield bonus video, link in the description below or in the comment section. Also get on the Honest Chemistry VIP list. It's dropping like pronto. So go do that. Thanks again, and until next time.